Hi, this is going to be a video about basic selects. It's going to cover the select statement, the order bys that allow you to sort, aliasing column names, the where clause and various forms of that. We'll talk about and, or, not, and between, talk about how you deal with null values. I'm not going to do like for this video, or case. Case is going to be a separate video that will follow this one, but I will show you distinct. All of this is in the second chapter of my book, Learning SQL on PostgreSQL, which is available at Amazon and at any bookstore on the web. So, next I'll show you once again how to get the database that I'm working with. Once again, how you would get the database that I'm going to be working with so that you can follow along if you want. If you go to github.com spconger, you'll see the database schema is right up top there. And then I go to other scripts, and we're going to be using Community Assist PG SQL. One of the things that I would do with it, click on it, and then choose raw, because you don't want to copy any formatting code. I am going to do a Control A, and then a Control C, so to select it all and then copy it all. Then I am going to go to PG admin. So I've already opened it, I've done the passwords, I've got the databases showing. I'm going to right click on database and create a database. And I'm going to call the database Community Assist. You should not have any spaces in there, and the capitalization doesn't matter, but you should not put a space between community and assist. It'll give you problems later. I'm going to save that. Okay, now we have community assist. I'm going to right click on that and choose query tool. And I am going to Control V. I'm going to paste in what I just did. Let's maximize that. Don't have to read the script, but if you run it, which is this execute refresh, or you can press F5, it will create the database. And then if I look over here at Community Assist, it's open. You can look down under schemas, and if you go way down under tables, you can see that it has all the tables. And just to at the bottom of this, I'll just do a real quick select star from person, and I will run that line. You just select that line to run it, and yes, it does. Oh, I know why. Well, no, it should work. Let's run it. Let's create a new query tool. So I'm going to do a select star. That means select everything from person, semicolon. I'm going to run that, and it has everything there. It didn't like it because I did it in the same script that created the database, but here it works. Couple of things while I'm here. This is the basic select statement. It has a asterisk for a wildcard. You can also do basic, we could say if we wanted to just see the names, we could do person name. Actually, it's not person name, person last name, person first name, and let's do person email. All right, and then those are the fields, and we have to say from person. You have to say what table it's from. Okay, so these are the fields that we want to select from the table person. Notice if I select only it, it'll only run that command. And there we are. We see the three fields that I selected. A couple of other things is it doesn't matter if you how you put that. If I run this, it's exactly the same as if I did it the other way. Capitalization doesn't matter for the most part. Sometimes it does, but generally it does not. Notice a capital P here, but lowercase p here. Traditionally, keywords are all caps, but they are not case sensitive, and because they're color coded, I usually don't bother all capping them in this environment. That being said, it's not a bad habit to get into. The scratch pad over here is a useful thing where you can add elements just to keep notes for yourself. Check on donations for something, whatever. Just notes that you can, or pieces of code that you want to keep. Notice how I just scroll that over. You can do that. Everything in here is floatable if you want. I don't advise floating it unless you have multiple screens. But this is the environment. So next we'll look at a whole series of select statements. All right, I have pre-typed in several select statements of different kinds so that you don't have to watch me type, which can be a painful process. A couple of things I want to point out right at the beginning. This is a multi-line comment. You might notice the slash asterisk. It's a lot like a C++ or C# or coding comment in general. So you can use that for a multi-line. Notice the dash dash, that's for a one-line comment. That's a little bit different than other languages. But commenting is useful, especially if you have to return to a script later. All right, we've already talked about something this. You select star from person. That's basically, I'll run it here. It's the asterisk is a wildcard that says select all the columns in the table person. So select everything from the table person. If you want to select specific columns, and in programming, by the way, if you're doing this within a web environment or something, it's always good to name them, the fields. You can name the columns and then from the table. So you only have to see the columns you want to see. And notice I did first name, last name here because you can put them in any order you want if you name them. The other thing that I should probably notice is that there's a comma after every element in the list except the last one. And statements end with a semicolon. So I'll run that real quickly. And you can see person first name, person last name, person email. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is show you a little bit about how to sort things. And the key to that is the order by clause. All right, so we're going to order them by last name. When I click on that, I'm only giving the first name, last name, email. There's an error here, which is good to show. There should be a comma after person first name to get the email. So what happens is that it thinks that person email is an alias for the last name. We'll talk about aliases in a moment. All right, so when I run it again, it gives us the email, and it has Alan, Nathan, Baker, Sally, Baker, Tom, Banner. So the default is always A to Z, 1 to whatever, and that's the order by. So we're ordering by the last name. You can also order by the first name. So notice here we've got Sally and Tom are basically the same. We've got two Browns, Leah and Matt. They actually are ordered. I was looking for somebody that isn't ordered. But anyway, you can descend by order by more than one thing. So I am going to order by person last name, person first name. So the last name comes first, and the first name comes second. The last name is the primary sort, and the first name is the second sort. All right, so we've got a couple of Johnsons. Notice that it's F. Got an F. Don't know why we have a TS. Oh, because this is Johnston, not Johnson. We've got Karen and Lee. Notice that they're in order too. I'm just looking for Miller. We've got two Millers. There's A and W. A few Nelsons. C, L, M, M. Okay, so it's ordering both. If you want to go backwards with an order, you can add the DESC, which is short for descending. And then instead of starting with an A, we start with a Z. And again, it's missing that comma. All right, so I am going to show you again. We'll run it again and get the email in there. But it starts with Z when you go in a descending order. If you want both of these fields to go in a descending order, so if we were to go all the way down to like Brown, Baker, and Baker, notice that they're still in M precedes L. That's actually L descending too. But anyway, Nelson was the place. Okay, we have several Nelsons. No, so notice they're L, L, C, M, L, M. Well, actually C, M, L, M. They're not in any particular order. But when I do them with both descending, then both the first and the last name will be in descending orders. Again, primary sort, secondary sort. Did I just do this? I think I ran the wrong line, but okay. So let's talk about aliasing. So we could do select first name, and person first name is a pretty awkward column name. I have a very verbose naming convention. It's good for programming, but it's not so good necessarily for looking at the results. You can alias these fields. This doesn't change the underlying thing, but it does change how it shows up in the result list. So I'm going to do person first name is first, person last name is last, person email is email, and then a from person. And when you run that, you'll see that it says first, last, email. So it gives you a much simpler, easier to read column heading. Here's the same thing, but without the word as. The word as is optional. So it works just fine without as. Notice it also works just fine without quotes, even though first and last are actually keywords. And it would make more sense to quote them. You do have to use quotes if you do like spaces, like first name, last name, and then I did no quote for email because it doesn't use that. But if you have a space, you have to use quotes, and you have to use double quotes for this. Okay, so that's aliasing. And again, aliasing is just to help the results look better. The next thing I want to talk about is the where clause. Up here did by listing the columns, we limited which columns we're going to show, but we're still showing all the rows. If you want to select among the rows, you need to use the where clause. So this is one where we're just going to look for people named Brown, who have the last name Brown. There's two of them. There's Matt and Leah. Okay. So they have the last name Brown. Notice the single quotes there. When you're quoting text or a date, you have to have a single quote. Let me do this for the, actually they're both selected. I just want to select this one. This is going to select a particular date. All right, this is the date when the person was added. So you do select, I'm choosing all the fields from the table person where the field person date added is equal to 2021 0212. So we're going to move over to a table called donation. It shows the donations that people have made to this charity. And we're going to look at some different criteria. This is equal. So we're looking at only those things that are equal to 500. All right, so those donations equal to $500. Notice this is not quoted. Numeric criteria does not have to be quoted. This is greater than 500, so we only want to see the ones bigger than 500. And you might notice down there that it tells you that there's 27 rows of those. We might want to see the ones that are less than 500. This is less than or equal to 500. This is greater than or equal to 500. This one gives you two criteria. We want in between. We want a donation amount greater than or equal to 500 and less than or equal to 1,000. So you notice 500 and 1,000 are included. There's 900, 650, but all the donations are between 500 and 1,000. You can get the exact same effect with the words between. Select star from donation where donation amount between 500 and 1,000. And it gives you exactly the same result. One other thing I want to mention about this form of it, you have to include the field on both sides where donation amount greater than or equal to 500 and donation amount less than or equal to 1,000. You can't just say where donation amount is greater than equal to 500 and less than equal to 1,000. You have to repeat the column name. All right, so let's look at a little bit about nulls. Nulls are unknown values. They are not zeros and they are not empty strings. They are values where they are places where the value is unknown. So if we want to see select a val, you can't say that it's equal to anything. You have to say it is null, where person, address, apartment is null. So these are the people that don't have an apartment number. Notice the null all down the side there. There's no person, address, apartment. This is if you want to see the ones where it is not null, and you can just add the word not. So I am going to run that, and all of these people do have an apartment number. And then I'm going to look at not again in a different context. We want to look at all the person addresses for where the person city is not Seattle. Most of them are Seattle because the charity is in Seattle. But there are 19 rows, you can see, where the city is not Seattle. We can select, or we can do select star from person address where person address city equals Bellevue or person address equals Kent. It'll show us both. So it's either Bellevue or Kent, each of those cities. I'm going to talk about distinct here, and then we'll be done for right now. I am going to run this, and notice that it has all these ones. It's showing the keys of the grant applications. So these are the keys that have, of the grant type key that have been asked for. You can do a distinct, and it will limit the number to one representation of each kind. So instead of hundreds of ones, we've just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Nobody's ever asked for 8 in the grant table. Distinct shows you only one instance of repeating values. But if there's any other field involved, then it returns unique rows, not unique columns. So if you include more columns here, the chances are that it will be unique and it'll return multiples of the same thing. This only works like when you have one column like that. There's another distinct, which I'll show you later, but not now. Let's do a real quick rehearsal of what we've done. We have a multi-line comment, single comment. The basic form of a select is select the listing of columns or the wildcard from what table name, from person. You can list the columns. Each one has to have a comma. Most statements should end with a semicolon. Order by sorts, and if you want to sort descending, if you want to sort by more than one field, there you just separate them by commas. Primary sort, secondary sort, and you can have tertiary sort. This gets really useful when you do like by year, by month. I suppose you could do by day, but usually by year, by month. There's order by person last name descending. Descending reverses the sort order. You have to do descending on any values in the order by. If you don't do a descending after the second one here, it sorts A to Z. This one sorts Z to A, and this one sorts A to Z without the descending. You can alias columns. You can use as to show that you're aliasing, despite the fact that it's not required. It's not a bad idea because it makes it clearer. Aliases can be put in double quotes. They don't have to be unless they are a keyword or have illegal characters such as spaces. So this is another variation of that, and this is another variation. This one does have spaces in there. Okay, and we talked about the various the where criteria, both for literal strings and dates, for different numbers. We talked about and between and nulls. Nulls always have an is or is not. They are not equal to anything. They are not greater than anything. They are not less than anything. All right. You can also use not to exclude things from your query results. And you can use or to kind of widen out your query results. All right. And distinct returns only a single instance of a row. So it returns only unique rows. That's it for this one. Next time I am going to do just a quick video on case, because it's a bit complicated. At least it looks complicated. All right, so see you then.